we are, day 1 of the Lighthouse Labs challenge, the 21-day coding challenge by Lighthouse Labs. It's exciting. Let's get started. So, how things are going to work, to your left, you'll see my coding window. That's where the challenge problem will be. I'm going to read through the problem, and as I read through the problem, I'll also be coding at the same time. I've already done this in advance. Once I'm done reading through the problem, we'll review the code, and I'll make any comments, and I'll tell you how I solved it and why I solved it in that method. Okay, let's get to it. Our challenge begins in Codeville, a small but thriving town in Riverside, Canada, where you are the current mayor nearing the end of your first term. Oh, that means we were elected. Election season is nearing, and this town needs you, so you've decided to run for a second term. However, you need some help to make sure the election and your campaign runs smoothly. Enter JavaScript, a coding language sure to help you optimize the many elements of the upcoming election and hopefully secure your return as mayor. As your election campaign ramps up, you plan to go door to door to talk to the citizens of Codeville. There are quite a few neighborhoods in Codeville, but luckily for you, we have a dedicated crew of volunteers to help out. Being the fair mayor that you are, you want to make sure that the work is distributed evenly between the team. Let's figure out how many neighborhoods each volunteer should visit. So the instructions are, given an array of volunteer names, an array of neighborhood names, complete the door-to-door function so that it returns the number of neighborhoods each volunteer should visit if the work of going door-to-door is split evenly amongst them. In the example, there is a constant volunteers with 4 volunteers listed. There's also a constant neighborhoods with a total of 8 neighborhoods listed. So doing this, just looking at it, it's a fairly simple problem. I think if we just take the neighborhoods and divide it by the volunteers, that should get us our result. So if you notice, while I was solving this particular I used dot notation and used the function count. Now that's from other programming languages. Like I said, I don't program every single day, so some of this stuff doesn't come naturally to me. I need to get into the habit before I start remembering the proper functions and methods that I need to use. So you'll see that I corrected it to dot length after realizing that count doesn't work. And what length does is it basically gets us the total amount of elements within these arrays. And so once I had the number of elements in these arrays, I just did quick division, and that got us our result. Ran the code, it worked well. Now, I'm not a huge fan of how I solved this, so after I submitted, I actually went back and I revised the code a little. So I used the function parsent, and basically what that does is it takes a fraction or a decimal number, and it drops the fraction portion and gives you the whole integer. So for example, if you took the number 1.2 and ran it through the function parsent, it would return 1. The problem with only returning 1 opposed to 1.2 is that you're actually missing portions of the neighborhood, 0.2 of the neighborhood to be exact. Somebody needs to do a little bit of extra work. Somebody needs to visit the entire neighborhood. So that in particular didn't jive well with me. So that's why instead of using the parsent function, I used the math function .ceil for sealing, I suppose. And what that does is it takes a fraction and it rounds it up to the nearest whole number. So that means that you might have a little bit of double coverage, but at least you're covering everybody. And that made more sense to me. So I ran that, and it ran well. So I'm a fan of that. So that's what I used, and that's what I'm going to be using going forward. And so that's it for challenge number 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this code, I'm going to create a repo on GitHub, and I'll link that down below so you can take a look at the code in detail. I'll do that going forward, and just so you know, all the following videos are going to be very similar to this one. So I'll start off by reading the challenge code at the same time, and when I complete, then I'll review the code like I did today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned till tomorrow. Bye.